What's up, Star Wars fans? It's Josh. Hey, before we get into this episode of Nerds Talk Star Wars, which I think is a very good episode, two things. One, I want to sort of apologize if this episode comes off a little bit negative. When it comes to Star Wars, I know tensions are high. There's two groups of people seemingly fighting this big war within the fandom, and I don't mean to add any more fuel to that fire. I just like to talk about Star Wars. I think when James and I sat down and talked, naturally we went into some negative areas. That is not to say that I'm super pissed off about Star Wars. I like what's going on in Disney Star Wars, but I acknowledge some of the problems. This is a point I continue to try to make to you guys. I know it's a nuanced argument. Nuanced arguments don't do really good on YouTube. So I apologize if it seems like I'm just being negative or giving into one side or the other when it comes to that fan debate. Number two, I want to talk about Mike Zeroh for just a second here. When James and I sat down to record this video, it was right in the heat of the whole Rian Johnson tweeting about Mike Zeroh and all that drama. I talk about Jason Ward from MakingStarWars.net and a couple other people within the Star Wars fandom community. And the truth is, I found out some stuff about Mike Zeroh after we recorded this. So in the video itself, I'm very pro Mike Zeroh, and I stand by the fact that I think Mike brings a lot of value to the Star Wars community because he gives us a lot of content to sort of speculate about, get excited about. I think he is still bringing value. However, some things came to light, and I can no longer defend Mike Zeroh. I do think he's pretty disingenuous online, steals from people, does things that are super shady. I cannot prove this, but people that I trust have reached out to me and explained this to me. So take everything that I say with Mike Zeroh in this video with a grain of salt, which is another Mike Zeroh joke. So that's all I wanted to do. I really felt the need to do this little pre-video before the episode. I hope you understand. Enjoy this episode now of Nerds Talk Star Wars. Star Wars Episode 9 is right around the corner. No, it's not. It's next year. But we're going to talk about a bunch of new casting news to go over. Also want to talk about this Mike Zeroh guy, the most hated man in the Star Wars fandom as of, I don't know, yesterday, thanks to Rian Johnson. This is Nerds Talk Star Wars. Let's do this thing. And then we're doing a little bit of corny music here. What is up, all ye beautiful nerds? I am, of course, Josh, and that over there is James Razile. Many of you know James well. If you don't know James, you should. He's one of the best Star Wars content creators, and just content creators in general online, in my humble opinion. James, thanks for being on the show.
Thanks for building me up so much that it can only be a hard fall to the bottom.
Yeah, no, everyone's like, "Oh shit, James," and they're gonna go check out all your stuff, and then they're gonna be like, "You know what? Like, now I'm out."
This is rough. Well, thanks for having me on. I haven't been on Nerds Talk Star Wars since the dawn of time.
Yeah, it's been a while. James and I do a ton of cool content together. James, by the way, everybody that's checking out the channel, James is an official member of the Den of Nerds now. He's going to be doing a lot more content over here, like solo videos, talking about Marvel, talking about Star Wars, different things like that. And then he and I are launching our joint podcast called James and Josh vs. the Internet. We recorded the first episode earlier this week. It's really fun. I'm just doing some touch-up edits on it, going to put a little bit of music and stuff. And then, we're going to drop that later so that everyone can get real mad because that's how the internet works these days.
Yeah, space dogs, I'll just say that.
Yeah, let's just say this. Space dogs. And James got me triggered on the episode, you know what I mean?
Which is the point of it. I think every week I'm going to say something I wouldn't even mean it half the time. I'll just say it to piss you off.
Yeah, just try to trigger me. Yeah, that's probably good. That's probably good. All right, so let's get into before we get into the episode 9 stuff, and I guess this kind of has to do with episode 9, but you shared a tweet with me last night from Sir Rian Johnson, a universally renowned and loved person within the Star Wars.
God among men.
Yeah, God among men, among the Star Wars fan base. And he was talking about Mike Zeroh. Literally. I couldn't believe it when you sent this to me.
I was shocked.
Yeah, so he's talking about Mike Zeroh, and he's talking about how we had a guy, I think in the tweet he essentially says, we had a guy during episode 9 production, or episode 8 production, checking in on the content that fans were creating and stuff like that. And then he started doing an expression on set where you miss something or you're off, and we called it, you zeroed it or whatever, right? And what's interesting is, Ryan has a big microphone still online, and Jason Ward, who's the guy that runs MakingStarWars.net, which is a great site, and I love that. That's
site, and I like Jason. Although to be completely fair, I like him less and less the more I follow him on Twitter. But he seems like a decent enough guy. But he and Ryan and a lot of other people out there got on the Mike Zeroh haterade train. And now this morning when I'm doing my research for the show, I'm looking at my Star Wars groups on Facebook, and I'm seeing a lot of talk about Mike Zeroh. I see it all on on the tweeter, as it were. So James, what's going on? Is Mike Zeroh public enemy number one of Star Wars at this point?
No, I think maybe, but so for me, for Mike Zeroh, is I used to watch his videos a lot. Um, and when I would go on Facebook groups, they would always be like, "What's your favorite YouTube Star Wars channel?" And there'd be a list of the usuals, but Mike Zeroh's name would always pop up, and under the Mike Zeroh comment would always be trail of hate comments about Mike Zeroh all the time. And I respect Mike Zeroh. He's just a guy on YouTube making videos. If you don't want to watch him, don't
Yeah,
watch him.
just don't
Like
watch it,
that's
right?
yeah, like that's like if you think he's full of shit, then just don't watch the channel. It's not that hard. I know somebody who is Mike Zeroh would always pop up on his related feed or recommended feed on YouTube, and he just put down not interested, and he hasn't seen Mike Zeroh on his channel since.
Yeah,
So that's how I feel. Just stop watching it. The Rian Johnson thing, I think I had a nice chuckle over it.
yeah,
Because the way I took it wasn't necessarily that he was being mean spirited so much towards Zeroh, but more that look, Mike Zeroh, I think a lot of times talks out of his butthole.
yes.
He comes up with things. And I think all Rian Johnson was doing was kind of teasing that aspect of it, that look, Mike Zeroh's wrong most of the time. It's okay. And so that's where that came from. I think it was more joking than mean spirited, but I could be wrong. So that's how but I do think, and you mentioned that his tweet was deleted. I think he realized that he kind of opened up a can of worms
Yeah.
when he wrote that tweet.
Yeah, so there's a couple of different things operating here, and we'll go down this rabbit hole just a little bit because I'm fascinated with this whole situation. I said on air 2 weeks ago, when I sat down with Vincent Vendetta, I said, and it was in the show notes that I handed Vince too, and we both agreed that Mike is actually the unsung hero for building hype for Episode 9. So, and I'll sort of reiterate my point here a little bit is that look, Star Wars is in a shaky place right now. There's a lot of people in the community that are turned off by what's going on. A ton of reasonable people. There's the haters, there's the crazies, there's those people. But there's a lot of reasonable people out there that are just like, I don't really know. And Mike is putting out a lot of content that seems to be getting people excited. He's very excited about Episode 9. He's talking a lot about the possibilities. The way he frames stuff is very, it's whack in a lot of ways. Talk how many storyboards has this fucking guy seen? What I mean? Like every video seems to be like, oh yeah, no, in this storyboard we see this, and oh man, this is what this means, and like I said, like I would love somebody because Mike is so. It's funny because he's so popular online that he's sort of blocked his Twitter. You can't really communicate with him on Twitter, so a lot of this stuff's probably going over his head. But if somebody out there has like some way to communicate with Mike, I want him on the show. I want him on the show. I want to talk to Mike about Star Wars and his love of Star Wars, and I want to glorify Mike a little bit because this hate is ridiculous. There's also something going on with Jason Ward where he has decided to attack. It almost feels like the entire Star Wars YouTube community. Now he's left certain people off, but he's really frustrated with Ethan Van Sciver, comic book artist and pro, and Geeks and Gamers. And I totally get that. I totally get being upset that these guys are out there making a lot of money off of seemingly the hate for Star Wars, and different things like that. But I feel like with Jason and with Ryan, these moves are very divisive. Like by their very nature, they're drawing a line in the sand between not only the creators of this content, but the people that view this content. It's almost like they are saying, if you watch this content, you are not on the side of Star Wars. What do you think about that?
Well, I just want to give some context to the Rian Johnson tweet very, very quickly because it was kind of a knee-jerk tweet, and I should have brought this up. But basically, what happened was, I don't know, you've probably seen this, but somebody tweeted at him and said, "Are you still making your Star Wars trilogy?"
Oh yeah, we're gonna go there too.
He said, "Yep," with that emoji, hat, that emoji. And then the person who asked that ended up responding with, okay, so Mike Zeroh, it says something about Mike Zeroh started that rumor that he wasn't on it anymore. And that's when he goes, oh, that was Zeroh. And then he goes into, that's where we had that. So it's kind of like a knee jerk, like, don't believe everything this guy's saying. We took it so, we took it so unseriously that during production, we called everything that, like, a falsehood, a zero is basically what that was all about. Now I don't remember what you just asked me.
Well, let me ask you this, because this will feed into where we're going with this. Do you follow Jason Ward at all on Twitter? Have you seen any of the YouTube videos that he has made?
I'm gonna be careful with how I respond to this because I do follow him on Twitter, but I have not seen any of the YouTube videos.
Okay, well that felt pretty safe. Yeah. So his thing is, super anti Mike Zeroh, and then he even was doing tweets yesterday. He loves to get in these little Twitter fights and everything like that. And he was talking about how geeks and gamers and other people were defending Mike Zeroh, essentially, because of all the stuff that was coming at them from Jason and other people like that. And I just think in that context, like, basically, like, what are you thinking about this? Because the thing is, so Jason and his website is a big part of the Star Wars fandom. A huge number of people go over there and get their info there. They aggregate a lot of articles from other places online. It's a great source of content for the fandom. I respect that. But what I don't respect is this idea and this little, like, addle that he's getting in, essentially, seemingly trying to discredit all these other people. And really my point here is further divide the fan base. You know what I mean? Like, I'm of the mind where it's like, I want to talk to everybody. I want to talk to Jeremy. I want to talk to Ethan Van Sciver. I want to talk to Mike Zeroh. And the idea here is, let's strip away a lot of the so-called, peripheral context, and let's just talk to these people. Let's do some long form. Let's talk about our love of Star Wars. Let's geek out a little bit together. And I think that is a move that would actually bring things together. Whereas what Jason is doing is completely to drive a wedge, continue to drive a wedge in the fan base.
And what's interesting what you just said about geeking out and celebrating it is I was talking to a friend who's been to a bunch of Star Wars celebrations in the past. And the last one was his least favorite just because of the way it was handled. Basically.
Yeah,
like the organization was kind of
so it was pretty fucked.
He goes, oh, I'm so he's like, oh, it sucks that was your first one to me. But then he said, because Celebration in Chicago is selling out quickly, like way too fast. It is stupid. And he said, I hope it's Star Wars fans and not people going there to bitch and moan about Star Wars, because that's not what that is all about. And I think the people that you just mentioned on both sides, I think if they were at a Star Wars celebration, I think they would be there to celebrate it. So what you're saying is right. They should. Now, back to your point. Yeah, look, the way I am on the Rebel Scum podcast, Brock and I we've mentioned Star Wars Newsnet. We've mentioned Mike Zeroh. Pretty much all of them have come into play at some aspect, but I don't know why we have to hang on other people's words and what other people are doing. I think this is our James and Josh versus the internet. Who gives a flying F ball? Like, I just don't like Mike Zeroh wants to say this. Let him say that. Like, you're right. What he was doing for The Last Jedi before The Last Jedi came out was he was pumping it up, basically. He was giving free publicity.
Free press.
Yeah, to Lucasfilm and Disney and Rian Johnson. He was pumping it up. And maybe he was disappointed by the movie. That's fine. Yeah. He's allowed to be disappointed. He's allowed to. I think all of the goodwill he gave them for a year, 2 years ahead, I think he was allowed to share some of those feelings on it. I don't think it, but we shouldn't. Why would that bother? Like, why would it bother me? And why would it bother me that Geeks and Gamers is? And look, I could disagree with all of the videos on that channel, but it doesn't bother me that they're making money because I have my own channel. I can see that there are haters that will hate the movie. I don't mean like negatively hater, but people just don't like the movie. Maybe they're looking for somebody with the same opinion. It's frustrating when you don't have the opinion and they're just being little bitches about it. That's different though. Like, calling everyone out is nonsense. We're all we're all Star Wars, supposedly all Star Wars fans,
I know. That's
so
what
we
I
should get along,
Yeah, that's what
even
I
if
want to
we
get
have.
back to. It's like
Yeah,
it's almost like I feel like I don't know, and we'll get off this topic in just a minute here, but I just feel like it's a really weird thing going on where it's really just more about like power and perception, and I think that both sides are in this divide are being really really crazy about it. Like I do not understand why, like okay, so there's the one thing where I think if they're trying to express to people, because I can almost feel like their response back to me, right? Like I feel like Jason, if I was like, sitting across from Jason, he'd be like, look, I provide good information on my website. I am trying to let people know that Mike Zero is not a good provider of information. But to me, that's like the Geico commercial. It's like everybody already knows that. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and there's a
that's the thing
way
with Zero is
to,
you don't go to Zero for real information. You go
right.
there for crazy shit brain theories that you're like, that is cool. I want
Yep.
Ray to have a triple sided
I
lightsaber.
know, right? Like,
I
yeah,
mean, I don't care if his friend is on set. I get like I'm like, where does he come up with these things? Because they're kind of crazy cool sometimes.
yeah, for
Some of
sure.
them are like you're out of left field, but sometimes you're like, yes, Vader's castle all the time. Let's
I
go to
just
it.
feel like nobody's really walking the Jedi path. Nobody's really being a Jedi
No.
about this. Like, if Jason was trying to be a Jedi, he'd be like, look, and just out of common courtesy, right? Just be like, look, first of all, Mike's a hustler. Mike provides a lot of content that entertains a lot of Star Wars fans while they are waiting for, official stuff, but he is not a news source. That statement right there, I feel like is more of a Jedi statement. You know what I
The
mean?
problem with him being the news source is there is a I don't maybe he owns this website. I have no idea.
What,
There is
like
a
Movie
website
Web and Express UK and all them? They grab
yeah,
his right, right.
Express UK like quotes him daily.
I know it's crazy, but here's the thing: that is the state of media. That is not Mike Zero's fault. Do you know
But
what I
does he
mean?
own Express UK? This is what I'm asking. Does he own
Nah,
is he the operator of Express UK?
no. I
No,
mean, like
that's not his fault.
no. To my knowledge, he is not the owner of that. Um, I don't think. Yeah, and you know what's funny too? We could probably go back in time and see some Mike Zero videos that were put up on MakingStarWars.net. I'm sure that they're there, unless they've been removed. Because I'm bet Jason didn't get to where he was at without sort of playing. I mean, for God's sakes, he aggregates stuff on the websites. He understands backlinking and SEO and all this stuff. Like, dude, when something's popular out there, like you can piggyback off that. Relevance is a really important thing. So I get that.
When I first started Rebel Scum, Zero was a source for a lot of like, because when we start off the Rebel Scum podcast, we start off with like theories and stuff usually.
Yeah.
And Zero was where I went to for like the first like year almost. It was like, look at this guy, he's got, and like this might not be true, but let's talk about it. What are the possibilities that Obi-Wan is a 14-year-old girl in
Yeah.
Episode 8? It
Yeah.
might be, I don't know. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, like, I just wish that we could get back to the place where we're like, the speculation is really, really fun. And look, like I said, and I'll repeat this, like, it's one thing to come out and say that Mike is not a reliable news source. That's totally fine. But I just feel like the unnecessary venom in the fan base, it's almost like they're trying to just further throw that wedge in there. And Mike, like, go ahead, I'm sorry.
I made fun of Mike Zero on a show once. Like it wasn't like a bad joke. It was like in passing. Like he had a theory that was like way out there, and I was like, oh geez. And somebody said, hey, I like Mike Zero in the comments, and I responded with, yeah, I wasn't really bashing like that. I was just saying this is a harebrained. Like, it was just the idea was harebrained. And he's got supporters out there, and that I don't know what the hell is I don't know whatever.
Why is it
What's
bothering?
the problem with
Yeah,
that?
why is it bothering people? I don't really understand.
Yeah.
But anyways, let us know in the comment section, guys. I'm really interested what all of you think about this. Maybe it's a little bit too heady and
I'm
all
not.
that. James isn't, but that's fine because he'll just do his thing. But I'm interested. I want to know what you guys think about the Mike Zero situation. What do you think about the way that he's being treated? I mean, for Rian Johnson himself to come out and make that tweet, I thought was kind of absurd. And then for like Jason and all these guys to really jump on him, I also think is a little bit unfair. Yeah. Okay. So let's move on. James, episode 9. They're getting a lot of casting news. sort of late, not like super late, but later into the production schedule. We got Dominique. What's the guy's last name? Dominique.
Monahan.
Yeah, Monahan. And then we got Matt Smith. Okay.
Yeah.
Two pretty high caliber actors. Not definitely. I wouldn't call either of them A-listers. You know what I mean?
No.
But decent actors. Apparently they have significant roles. This combined with Kerry Russell. You know, obviously Lando's coming back. JJ's on record saying this is going to be the movie that has the most new characters and the most characters out of any Star Wars film. What are you thinking these characters are going to be doing?
They're all Ewoks, Josh. Every single one of them.
Holy
is
cow.
a new Ewok.
That's pretty cool. I'll be down.
Yeah. Ewoks have grown. I don't know. I had a, hey, maybe. And you know what? The thing, it's so funny how we're on the final chapter of this 9-part saga,
Yeah.
maybe 10.
Yeah.
And whereas in the dark on anything going on as we've ever been in anything. Like,
Yep.
I think we knew more about what was coming in episode 8 because of how The Force Awakens ended. We're like, well, Luke's going to speak now. Now we're like,
right.
Luke's back, supposedly.
Yeah.
Is he a Force ghost? Is it flashbacks? We don't know. There's all these new characters, like you said, showing up. Most characters of all the Star Wars movies. I like the idea of them. Was Monahan a key role? Because Matt Smith was reported as a key role.
Mm-hmm.
Monahan, I think I just said, was cast in it.
Yeah, I'm actually not sure. It could not be a key role.
Yeah, I don't know. I kind of like him. I like the idea where they're Knights of. I want the Knights of Ren in it, just because
Me
Snoke
too.
says
Big
that,
time.
and you know, I agree with Rian Johnson that they should not have been the Praetorian Guards, because then it would have just been such a waste of everything. There's another thing for fans to hate in that movie.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'd like to see them as Knights of Ren, possibly. I know there's a lot of people thinking that Matt Smith might play like a younger Snoke, but I think that's kind of weird. I think maybe a young Palpatine.
Yeah, I mean, I think honestly, it's probably mostly First Order stuff. Like he could be a ranking member of the First Order, or like a member of a planet, perhaps.
What if? Sorry
Yeah.
to cut you off.
Yeah.
What if he's actually in the Resistance and Kerry Russell is in the First Order?
Could be. I mean, it definitely could be. Here's my thing. Okay, so let's back it up a little bit. First of all, the question comes to mind, is Star Wars in a place where no A-list celebrities want to be in these movies anymore? Because when you think about what happened in episode 8, you have Laura Dern, and then you have Benicio del Toro. They are like the highest caliber of actors. They are super high profile, especially Benicio del Toro. At the time, I would consider him A-list, you know what I mean? At least B+ list, you know what I mean? And then The Last Jedi happens. And I'll be honest with you, Matt Smith and Dominique, they're not really high caliber.
No, but they're JJ guys, though.
They're JJ guys. That kind of feeds into my point, though. I feel like he's getting his buddies more than he's getting people that are dying to be in a Star Wars movie.
But he did that for Force Awakens too, and to some degree Star Trek.
But there were very high profile cameos, and there was just a lot of people lining up to be in a Star Wars movie.
Yeah, but the cameos we didn't hear about until later on, so those could still be coming.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But that's like my first thought. Honestly, I just have to put that out there. I'm like, okay, these actors are not really exciting me. It's kind of cool. I know there's a lot of Doctor Who fans that are super pumped about Matt Smith, and that's fine. But yeah, so that's my first thought. Right away is like, okay, this doesn't really excite me, but that's okay.
That was my thought too, actually.
Yeah. And my second thought is like, because I didn't even cover it. Like on the Nerdy News Rundown, I didn't cover any of that. I'm just like, I really didn't care. But the other part of it is, please put a fucking lightsaber in these people's hands. That's my other thought. And I know that sounds a little bit crazy. It sounds a little bit selfish. But like when Laura Dern and Benicio del Toro, like I love the performances that they both handed in, but I do not like the characters. The characters that they played, in my opinion, were like stupid. Like, you know what I mean? Like Holdo is a dumb character, and so is DJ. Like they're They're weird.
DJ would have been, I think, a better character had he just been the freaking guy they went there to see in the first place.
Yeah, definitely. Or take that
whole
lisp away.
Oh, you randomly found the perfect person in like, what?
Yep.
Okay. Anyway.
My point is this. When these characters get cast, it used to be a thing where the Star Wars fan base would be like, oh my gosh, are these Jedi? Are these Sith? You know what I mean? Are these going to be smugglers? It's like this. Here's the way I think of it. It's like an RPG, right? It's like an RPG. You get these characters and you're like, okay, so this is my character. What class are you picking? You know what I mean? What skill set are you picking? You know, what are all these things for the Star Wars? Because it's, you know, it's a war. What are they doing? And so a lot of that excitement and that speculation has sort of been stripped away from it. And I'm thinking like Matt Smith. I'm like, yeah, no, Knights of Ren, for sure. Give me Matt Smith as a Knight of Ren or Snoke's other apprentice or something significant that has a lightsaber, that has some force abilities that could be really badass. At the end of the day, we're like super duper lacking on like what I would call high profile RPG gaming characters, meaning like when I go to play Star Wars Destiny or when I go to play Galaxy of Heroes or Battlefront, are any of those characters going to pop up? That to me is the measure of how impactful they are for the Star Wars brand. How many Holdo toys are they going to sell? How many Holdo, you know what I mean, gaming things are they going to have? I just, do you kind of see where my head is at with that?
Yeah, I hope they have some relevance to the world, not just the movie. I think that's why you're.
Yeah, that's a good way to say it. That's a better way to say it. That's why you pay James the big bucks.
The big bucks, checks in the mail.
Yep.
I think, I've been saying since before Last Jedi that I think 9's going to end with a giant ass battle, like Lord of the Rings style. I don't know how you do that anymore. I think a time jump is one way to get around everything, because you need to establish more lightsabers, more users of the Force, more Jedi, more not Sith type entities. So, I mean, you already have the Knights of Ren, which are, according to Wikipedia, at least 6 of them plus Kylo. So that's seven characters wielding blades of some sort there. Then you can have Rey. One of the rumors when The Force Awakens came out was that the Force just started to awaken in people randomly in the galaxy. And I liked that idea. So, I mean, my concern with these new movies is the way the Force is being used, because they're making them more like superhero than Jedi, than like using the Force. And I'm like, that, I don't know. I just feel like they don't fully understand. They're like, oh yeah, they could do these things. It's cool. And it's like, but that's not what's cool about the Force.
Right.
Anyway, so I think in Time Jump, though, you can negate all of the aspects that I'm not liking about it and just be like, oh yeah, in these 5, 10, 15 years, Rey is now the strongest Jedi because she is. And she trained 3,000 other Jedi and they're all coming.
Right.
And so you can get around that. But then, I mean, you know, if she's training a bunch of Jedi, wouldn't one of them turn? One of them always turns.
Yeah.
So maybe there's conflict. I'm with you though. I hope if any of them are big character, like I hope, like I mentioned Kerry Russell, I hope she's just not Holdo 2.
No.
You know, I hope she's just not. Oh, look, I'm in the. I mean, you have to think somebody.
She's action heavy, first of all. Yeah, they said it. Yeah.
One of these 3s, though, you have to think is going to be taking the Leia type role in the movie, like one of these 3, because Leia, they're using footage, but they have to use pre-existing material, so someone's going to have to add the new stuff to it. So one of them I would think is going to play that type of role, but put a lightsaber in their hands for sure, at least a blaster.
Yeah, come on. Yeah, for sure. And I think Carrie, my opinion on Kerry Russell, and I've sort of said this, you know, because like her code name, her casting name was Mara, and everyone's like, oh, it's Mara Jade. I think that I think it's a version of Mara Jade. Like, I would love for her to be a female Knight of Ren that is badass, like badass, and that her and Kylo sort of have a love triangle with Rey. You know what I mean? I would love that idea, and partially because I think Kiri, like if we go into the next saga, and this is something I've talked about with fans and stuff, if we go into the next saga and Kylo is either dead or in exile, but Kylo and Rey have children, and then there's the new Jedi Order that Rey started, and there's the Jedi are flourishing. If Kiri's still around and she's the big bad, then she would despise Rey and the Jedi for what they did to Kylo. And I think it just creates this really cool tension. And there's this Shakespearean aspect that goes over a lot of people's heads when it comes to Star Wars, but like it's really it's like family and close friends. Like the reason the conflict is elevated to such a level is that like the Emperor is telling him this guy's the son of Anakin Skywalker, and that resonates. That's a big freaking deal.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's like, oh shit, they're all connected in this family type of way. So even if Kiri like isn't related by blood and Rey isn't related by blood, it all has to feel very high drama with like the connective tissue is the relationships. So I'm really hoping that like these characters they have something to do with the main, the main cast, and that looking, past episode 9, which I do believe we're doing more episodes, maybe just not Skywalker episodes. I am pumped, and I think that that's the way you set it up in the future. So, yeah, let us know in the comment section, guys. What do you think?
Excellent idea.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Guys, look, James and I just love talking Star Wars, dude. This shit's so fun. But let us know in the comment section, guys. What do you think about the new characters in episode 9? What are you expecting? What are you hoping? Whatever your thoughts are, let us know in their comment section below. Now let's jump back into the Rian Johnson business. So at the beginning of that tweet, he said, "Yes, I'm still working on Star Wars. I'm still working on my trilogy." What are your thoughts on that? Like, what do you think's going on?
I think he's still working on his trilogy.
Okay.
I think there might be some trepidation on their part. It might be, but I think he's still working on it. I think he's still going to do it because look, he can make a trilogy. Everybody on social media could be like, Rian Johnson's making a trilogy. It's going to be the worst. I'm not going to go see it. But then when the trailers come out, they're not going to put his name on it. So the average film goer that saw it, they might not be so deterred from it. And if it looks epic, and if it is epic, how are you going to pass on it?
So this is where I think we'll defer a little bit. I think when he says I'm still working on my trilogy, that has nothing to do with Lucasfilm. That's him. He's talking about how he is still working on it, coming up with ideas, throwing around different things with production. I mean, him and Ram, I think it's Ram, are probably having a lot of conversations, working on it, throwing ideas together. I don't think that has anything to do with Lucasfilm. Now, Lucasfilm can turn around and say, yes, and they can turn around and say no. Now, technically they greenlit this trilogy before The Last Jedi came out. So technically, depending on how the contracts work and what happened, behind the scenes, Rian is working on a property, a Star Wars trilogy that Lucasfilm greenlit. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But that does not mean that trilogy will ever see the light of day. And my personal opinion is that it will not. And I don't really know where I land on this because, like, you and I think we like The Last Jedi a little bit more than your average bear. At this point, I think you like it less than I do, actually. But I don't necessarily want to see any more Rian Johnson Star Wars, personally. You know what I mean? Despite all of that, despite being, I kind of think he should go do something else. And from a business perspective, I'm sorry, I just do not see how Lucasfilm greenlights that trilogy. Even if they hide his name, I do not see that. They greenlit that thing. They greenlit this trilogy with a completely different scenario in their head of what would happen with The Last Jedi and the Star Wars fan base. You know what I mean? Like, nobody at Lucasfilm was like, oh, yeah, no, it's going to be completely divisive and we'll enter a whole new area of Star Wars fandom.
Which makes me question if they even watched the cut of the movie.
Dude, Bob Iger said he watched it like 4 times. He said he loved it.
Yeah, but he's not a star. Like, I just feel like they didn't actually watch it. Because the minute Luke Skywalker tosses that lightsaber, somebody would have been like, yeah, people are going to be pissed.
Well, our main man, Mark Hamill, tried to warn them like almost every day.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
nobody listened.
Nobody listened. And Mark and I talk about this all the time. And look, guys, I know it might seem like we're being negative on Star Wars. We're really not. We're just talking about it.
I hate Star Wars.
Yeah, no, yeah. I hate babies. So it's like, whatever.
Wow.
Yeah. Right. But at the end of the day, we're just talking, guys. The thing about us over here at the Den of Nerds is we're gonna be real. You know what I mean? Like we're gonna be real about this stuff. We're not gonna like, but we're just gonna be real, and it's just our opinions. By the way, this is the content that I hope you came here for. And so when it comes to what's going on with Mark, the thing that I am fascinated by is that Mark Hamill was an ambassador for the Star Wars brand when it wasn't even cool. After the prequels and like things were pretty bad for Star Wars, Mark would still, he was a great ambassador for the brand. He'd do all these cons. He would, really be out there with the fans, helping rebuild the image of Star Wars, helping connect with the fans, being this great ambassador for the brand. I just do not understand why they wouldn't take into consideration what he had to say about it just a little bit more. You know what I mean?
I don't. So many questions I have about the decisions that were made going in. But if Rian Johnson does make it, I think they might look at it. But the other thing is too is it's all new characters and an all new like part of the galaxy, and it's open sandbox for him to play in, and he won't be ruining Luke Skywalker or the myth or anything like that. So I mean that's one positive to take away from it all.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I just don't see how that trilogy could happen. I don't see how people like it's funny because we talk about, inverse the internet and a lot of things. We talk about just the state of things out there. And I just think it's so whack that there's people out there that just because they dislike the way that some of the haters are going about voicing their criticisms, which is totally fine. Some of these people are absurd, but they dislike it so much that they will blindly say, "Yes, give me the Rian Johnson trilogy. This would be great for Star Wars." It's like if you really think about it objectively, I don't see how you can make that statement. Like it's one thing to say, "Oh, all these haters are being buttholes." It's another thing to say a whole mass of Star Wars fans don't matter. This is the new fandom. Let's make this Rian Johnson trilogy, which is kind of how it feels like to me. You know?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of that going on. It's spiting. Everybody spites everybody. So.
Right. That is not the Jedi way.
Welcome to 2018, Josh.
I know, right? Be 2019 soon. Maybe we'll get over it.
No.
Right? So, yes. Okay, so we're both super excited for the Rian Johnson trilogy, which will hopefully come out very soon. Let us know in the comment section, what do you guys think about it? I was blown away. We did a poll on the channel. I was blown away by the amount of people that want the Rian Johnson trilogy. That's cool. I mean, like, honestly, like, your opinion is valid. I'm not saying you're wrong. I just hope it's for the right reasons. That's the only thing that I would say about that. Now, whatever your thoughts are about the Rian Johnson trilogy and what's going on with that, let us know in das comments. So
unless it's negative, then we don't want to hear it. There you go. That's how we.
Nah, bro. I honestly don't care. You can bring the negativity. I'm actually really zen these days. I've been really working on my meditation. I'm totally cool with it. Like bring the hate, bring the negativity. We'll have fun with you. It'll be totally fine.
Absolutely.
But
it's okay not to want something.
Yeah, it's totally okay. And look, here's the other thing. They make the Rian Johnson trilogy. It's not like I'm gonna be super pissed. It's not. I'm not that guy. I like The Last Jedi. I'm gonna go see the Rian Johnson trilogy. I'm thinking of the brand. You know what I mean? I have my business cap on, and I'm like, no. Like if I was in that meeting, I would be like, Ryan, thank you for your service. You know what I mean? Have a nice life. You know what I mean? Bye. You know? I wouldn't even bring him to cons.
I just want more Star Wars, so we'll bring it.
Yeah, but like, dude, with the Jon Favreau show, I mean, the Jon Favreau show is my golden goose. That's what I think that's gonna turn everything around, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely.
And episode 9 is gonna be dope. All these haters out there, you're crazy if you don't think episode 9 is gonna be dope.
It's gonna make $1.5 billion.
Dude, hell yeah! And you know what? I want it to be best Star Wars movie of all time. You know what I mean? Like, I want it to elevate past the OG trilogy, past Sith, past some of my favorites, and just be like incredible. You know what I mean? I'm excited for that.
It won't, but that's a good thought.
Hey, look, it could. I don't know. It could. I mean, we'll see. All right, let's talk about Star Wars Resistance. Another thing that unanimously loved by Star Wars fans out there is the Star Wars Resistance animated show, which premieres actually very, very soon on the Disney Channel.
Early October.
Yeah, I was actually really surprised that it's coming out because I was like, why wouldn't they just save this for the streaming service? But whatever. So when the trailer dropped, I don't know if you know this or not, James, it was not super well received. A lot of people were down on it. It has, I think, a 2/3 to 1/3 ratio of dislikes on that video. People disliked that trailer into oblivion. What are your personal thoughts about Star Wars Resistance, and why do you think so many people are negative towards it?
Because people are little bitches. I thought it looked all right. It's not for me. It didn't really look like my favorite thing, but I don't care. Droids, when I was a kid, I watched this cartoon called Droids and Ewoks.
Yeah.
They're two separate ones, and they were not made for 40-year-old men or women. They were made for when I was like 5.
Mm-hmm.
They're made for 5-year-olds. So resist people are saying it looks too much like a kid show. Well, maybe it is a kid show. Maybe that's why it's on Disney XD and they're not holding it off for the streaming site, Disney Play, as it's been called. Maybe that's cool. Why. Like it looked like a fine show, that kids might like, and I might watch it, but I don't. Not everything needs to be made for me in this Disney and Star Wars world. It's like Star Wars is a lot for kids, so let it be for kids. That's how I felt. The animation surprised me. It looked better than I expected from it.
Yeah. Yeah, here's what's really weird about this. I love it. I think it looks freaking amazing. Like I loved the trailer. I love the animation style. Like I'm like a huge nerd for that kind of stuff. So like, like I went to art school, I study animation and all this, and I'm like, yo, this looks so clean. It's like a cell shading.
It's very clean.
Yeah, it's like it's an anime. It feels sort of derivative of anime, but it's cell shaded. It's got that same kind of 3D modeling you get from like Clone Wars, but like kind of cleaner. And I think the one thing I'm really interested to see is the flight. So it's a show about pilots, and I love the spaceships. I love that aspect of Star Wars is one of my favorite things. And it looks like it's gonna be just really gorgeous to watch.
Yeah.
And on top of that, like I love the idea that it's playing around before the Force Awakens. You have Oscar Isaac, you have Gwendolyn Christie. We might hear some rumblings of Luke Skywalker. We might hear some Kylo Ren's shuttles in one of the shots, so you might get some Kylo Ren stuff. I actually am very excited, unabashedly so, for Star Wars Resistance. So, and I do agree with you.
It was written and directed by Rian Johnson.
Oh, never mind then. I take it all back. No, but like, I just don't get it. Like, I think you're right. Like, obviously, like people are kind of like butthurt online and trying to be all negative. You know what I mean? Like, they really are.
They were butthurt with Rebels too, and Rebels ended up being a gem.
I know. It's like, dude, what? You guys aren't paying attention. Now, I know Filoni was pulled away from the show and he wasn't involved on the day-to-day, but like, he was still involved with it. He still helped create it.
Like, I'm a huge Filoni fan. I think he's a brilliant mind, but he's not the only one out there. Like, and they had other projects for him. Like, I don't know.
Well, you know what? Too, I was
chillax.
They need to chill out for sure, and there's plenty of Star Wars stuff to enjoy. One of the things I wanted to talk about, and I haven't really shared this on like line or on like my gram or anything, but so Lost Stars is one of my favorite books in the Star Wars world, right? And I love that book. I love Claudia Gray. I think she's one of the unspoken heroes of the new canon.
I can't wait for her next book's going to be the best.
Yeah, Kenobi and Qui-Gon. Yeah. Oh, yeah, bro, hell yeah! Can't wait for that. It's going to be awesome. But so I'm reading the manga. There's a manga adaptation of Lost Stars, and like it is so good. It is so good. It jumps around a little bit. It's not the same as Lost Stars, but it's got that anime vibe, and I love seeing like the Japanese take on the Star Wars and like how they do it in that black and white manga format, and I just love it, and it's very kind of childish, and like anime has its own sort of tropes and everything, and I don't know, like when it comes to Resistance, why people are so resistant to try a different flavor of the Star Wars ice cream. You know what I mean? It's almost like The Last Jedi was this flavor that people hated so much that now they're like, I can only have my vanilla Star Wars. Anything with even the hint of sprinkles or chocolate, I will not enjoy. I do not like it.
Yeah, it was kind of like that before, though. Like I said, with Rebels got all the hate. The Star Wars community is such a great community, but sprinkled in with a bunch of douchebags every once in a while that just like ruin your experience. It's like the kid that pukes on the roller coaster. You're like, why? You ruined it for me.
Dude, you just gave me a great idea for a T-shirt that I'm gonna put up on the Den of Nerds Teespring.
Sweet.
Douchebaggery is the path to the dark side. Oh my God, I can't wait. We're gonna sell a shit ton of those. I might edit this out because I don't want anybody to take that idea. But yeah, so Star Wars Resistance, I think it's gonna be pretty cool. But yeah, there's that hate out there. People are super butthurt about it. It's like I didn't get butthurt about Forces of Destiny. I was just like, okay, this is cool. Not really for me. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like that's fine. Like it's a weird time that we're in here, my friend. You know?
Very.
Yeah. So let's finish off the show talking about the Jon Favreau show a little bit. Now, this is news, kind of older news at this point, but I just, since I got you here, we haven't really talked about this. I want to get your opinion. So, what do you think about it being the rumors of it having to do with Mandalore and focusing on Mandalore? What do you think about that?
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's weird. I know he loves Mandalore and all that, but I think it's weird that they would go that their first foray into Star Wars on Disney Play would focus on Mandalore. Like you're talking no lightsabers. You're gonna get one.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
Or maybe more. Are there more? But it seems strange to me because it's very Mandalore to me feels like a very niche subject matter, but then now that I'm talking out of my butt, it could be Game of Thrones-ish.
Right. That's I think
And
the whole
that
idea.
could be their that could have been the sign point as well. They love Game of Thrones. And like, oh, they love Game of Thrones. Let's love Mandalore. So that could be it. I think it's a little bit strange. Obviously I'm gonna watch it. If it's available in Canada, I will probably get Disney Play. Frick, there's so many plays out
I
there.
know.
I'll probably get Disney Play, but I don't know. It didn't excite me as much as some other topics might have. How about you?
Well, I'm like super excited about it. I think the one thing that I took away from it was the Game of Thrones example, exactly like you're talking about. Mandalore has been a big part of the Clone Wars and a big part of Rebels.
That's the thing, though. Is like I feel like I've seen enough of Mandalore that I'm like, okay, I can take a break from it. Show me something else.
Yeah, I mean that's fair. That's fair. You're a casual fan, probably not so much. But I think the thing that's interesting about Mandalore is the way that it's structured with the different houses and the biting for power. And also, I think it's an interesting planet because so they were Imperial, right? But there was a lot of people on the planet not down with the Empire on Mandalore. And so Mandalore is a planet that's sort of fighting for its own identity. The timing of the show is essentially right after the Empire starts to crumble. And so from the political intrigue perspective, it'll be this thing where there'll be people on Mandalore probably saying like, "Oh, the Empire is over. We need to figure our stuff out now." And then there'll be some people that are like, "No, no, 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 no. The Empire is legit." And also, one of my favorite parts of Lost Stars is after the Battle of Endor, it talks about, and it's sort of brief, but it talks about how there were different people within the empire that self-appointed themselves as the emperor. So there were different people, even within the imperial remnant, that were like, no, 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 we are the power. And they had like mini wars and conflicts between them. And I love that idea. I think it's such a cool time period to play it with, and you can backdoor it to tie into the Jedi Mandalorian Wars and the Old Republic time. So if Dan and Dave are really going to go Old Republic, then this is a very nice way to introduce the casual fans to more of an idea of Mandalore, ancient history of the Jedi Sith, and what was maybe happening in the time of the Old Republic. So I sort of see a plan here, and I think Mandalore is like the perfect backdrop for that.
Yeah, I could be down with what you just said.
So that's kind of where I'm at with it. Also, what do you think the odds are that we'll see like Ezra Bridger and or Sabine Wren in this live action show?
You might get something tied to Sabine. I don't know if you'll get Sabine herself unless she's like a baby.
Well, no. Sabine would be older. because the Jon Favreau show is taking place after Endor, and we know that.
Right. Sorry, my timelines are mixed up in my head.
That's cool. So
It's
Hera
Sunday,
fights.
Josh. It's Sunday.
I know.
I'm on Sunday Labor Day weekend mode.
Right. But yeah, so like,
yeah, that would be. Well, she'd be off with Ezra.
well, here's the thing. What if we see when Ahsoka comes? Because remember, because there's this line at the end of there's the finale, and in that epilogue, Sabine is giving the epilogue, and she's talking about all this. She like makes mention of all the stuff that she took care of on Mandalore. It's like a weird, I forget the way she phrases it, but essentially saying like, I thought was meant to do all of this, and then I did it, and I realized it was something else. And so I think there's a part she plays a role on Mandalore, and then Ahsoka comes to Mandalore and takes her away, and then they go look for Ezra. So
yeah,
you could
it would
see
be kind of cool if that was the show started that way.
Yeah, like the pilot, and then like
the pilot, yeah,
and then like Ahsoka and her just bail, and then we're left with like, oh shit, what are we gonna do now? You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. I'd be down for that.
And the Darksaber. Let's not forget the Darksaber.
Yep.
I want to see that in live action so badly. That would be really cool.
Yeah, that would be amazing. But that would be the only saber you get in this show.
True. Yep.
Just saying.
Yep. Well, that's we'll have to just wait and see and see how they approach it. Either way, I'm excited for the show. Jon Favreau can do no wrong.
Yeah, absolutely. Favreau's amazing.
Yep, Favreau's amazing. All right, guys, that is gonna do it for this week's episode of Nerds Talk Star Wars. I've been Josh. That's been James. James, a lot of people probably know where to find you, but let's let them know. Let the newbies know.
I'm living under a rock. You could find me. You can find me on the Mike Zeroh YouTube channel.
Yeah.
I'll be here at the Den of Nerds to have the Star Wars thing at the Rebels Con podcast. Join me on the Twitters and the Instagram if you want to look at pictures that I post. There's nothing that exciting. PEZZAFINA. That is where you can find me. And if you want to play me at Overwatch, you can play me on PlayStation 4. I'm not very good, so don't.
Nice, well done. Overwatch was fun. I'm not really messing with it anymore. But yeah, guys, of course,
I'm not obsessed with any games, Josh. I just right now that's what I'm playing. I rotate.
I'm trying to get back into gaming because I want to start. We're gonna launch a Twitch channel soon for the Den, and everybody's gonna be streaming on there. So everybody needs to have some game that they want to stream.
Can I stream me playing Mario Brothers 3?
Absolutely. We'll just have to figure it out.
That's what I play.
I'm actually going to stream this mobile Dragon Ball game a lot because I really like it. So I'm going to stream that, and then I'm trying to get back into Fortnite and Dragon Ball Fighters Z. I don't need to be like level, but I need to be respectable. You know what I mean?
I'm terrible. How about me trying to figure out Pokemon Go?
Yeah, I don't know how that would work. Like, I'd love to do a video like that, but that just feels logistically really hard because you have to be all over the place.
I don't know, because I just downloaded it yesterday and I turned it on and I didn't know what I was doing. I had a Pokemon and a ball floating in the air like this.
Yep.
And I said, I don't know what I'm doing, so I turned off the app.
I've heard it's like I played the game when it first came out. I heard it was really cool, but now it's a little off the rails or whatever. So
I never. That was my first foray into Pokemon. I've never touched a Pokemon.
Really interesting. Yep. Yeah, I liked Pokemon back in the day. But anyways, guys, thank you so much for hanging out with us here on Star Wars Sunday. Thanks for all the support you guys are giving the channel. You guys are amazing. We got a lot of big things on the way. I'm very excited for all of the content that we have coming out, some of the events that we're doing. Very cool stuff on the way. I'm, of course, Josh. You can find me here on the Den of Nerds. Go check out the Den of Nerds Facebook, the Den of Nerds Instagram. We got it all going down. It's real cool over here. As I always say, I hope you are having an awesome and nerdy day, and I will see you in the next video.